Okay, so by way of introduction, I'll just say that UWM has made some plans for being online this summer, and we are trying to put together a program that we think will be useful for students who need to stay in the United States during the pandemic, need to sort of keep up on their English, and maybe practice in areas that are important to them, but we've tried to make it so that they don't have to have a full slate of classes, since immigration isn't requiring that, and many are going to be studying from their home country. So I want to give a brief introduction to our online classes. We'll talk a little bit about the academics, about opportunities for students who might be interested in coming to UWM eventually, and finally, we'll see if there are any questions and go from there. So I'm gonna share this PowerPoint. Okay, so this is an introduction to our summer online program. It's a new thing for us, but it's not completely new because we've been doing about a half the semester this semester online as well. So all of our teachers have actually gotten really good at delivering online content, both live and in person, and also asynchronously, or without being in person. So I've heard from a lot of our instructors, and they've all expressed that they feel very positive about their abilities in this area now, and so we're taking this show into summer. First of all, here's who we are. My name is Larry Kuiper. I'm the academic director for the program. Some other faces that you can see here. Jody Forback is our financial specialist, and she would help anybody who needed to talk about how to pay, when to pay, those kind of things. Amy Shields, who's here with us right now, is the person in charge of all of the academics for the intensive English program. Lynn, who's also here with us, is our person who takes care of things like immigration and advising. We've also got Lindsay here, who is the student outreach person, who's going to be the most important point of contact for students who are trying to start up the program and get some orientation on where they should be when and what kind of things they should be expecting. That's the administrative staff. We also have a large team of very experienced and kind and smiling, as you can see, instructors. All of these instructors have a great deal of experience, and they are all also very well prepared to teach online and very caring with their students. They take time this semester, when they've been doing half the semester online. I hear about teachers who've been on the phone with students in the middle of the night who are having troubles. They're very kind and caring instructors, and also very experienced and very proficient at their jobs. And then if you want to learn more about the kind of things that we do during normal times, you can go to our Facebook page and see what some of our activities have been, and including during the pandemic, where we've done some video interviews with some of our instructors and staff. We've also got pictures from the good old days when everyone used to be able to be together. And so I encourage you to visit our Facebook page and take a look. And if you have questions that you want to ask us and happen to be on our Facebook page, you can always message us through there, as well as using the email address that I'll give at the end of the presentation. We are also active on Instagram, and you can check us out there. So this is the page to do that, and as you can see, I've put in the first three pictures. We are used to having a lot of fun together, and we are planning during this semester to also have virtual social gatherings so that people can feel a little more connected to the ELA community. So no, we won't be going to the bowling alley necessarily, or to the greenhouse, but we will be trying to meet and have some fun outside of just classes. We will invite all the students to join us for those things. So this is how the program is going to work. You can sign up for 1 or 2 months. The dates are here. Month 1 goes June 2nd to June 29th. Month 2 goes July 7th to July 31st. And I should let you know that we are prepared to extend that second session if it's felt that it's needed. Um, and we also, since everything is online, if some flexibility is needed with some of these dates in terms of start dates and end dates, we're not going to be too taxed by the idea of someone starting a little off, or, well, especially if somebody needs to end a little later, we're not going to have too much trouble with that, I don't think, because like I said, everything's online, so it's not like we need to prepare our physical facilities for somebody who needs to test later or anything like that. But these are the guidelines for start dates. We'd like to stick as closely as possible to the start dates, just because it sort of makes it a little easier on instructors to at least start off with a group and so on. But I think we can be somewhat flexible in terms of when maybe final testing is done and things like that. We will be offering our 3 core classes for levels A and B, and just to understand, these are the Common European Framework of Reference levels. So we're sort of doing large level groupings for now, just saying A and B, but it could be, depending on the number of enrollments, we might be able to fine tune that, but it would depend, right, Amy, on we would just need to have a certain critical mass of numbers to go down to the finer grained A1, A2, B1, B2 levels.
Correct. We'll just to see what we get with testing of the students and who enrolls and things like that.
Right. And then, right. And the titles for the 3 core classes are self-explanatory: reading, listening and speaking, and writing. And as we said, you have the option to take 1, 2, or 3 of these classes. Whichever area you feel like you want the most work in, take that one or take 2. We don't have any restrictions on the number of classes you can take. I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job here, since I have a cat clawing my thighs while I talk right now. Here, I'm gonna just go ahead and, there she is. Okay. Okay. And this is the pricing. So there are no added hidden fees here, no taxes, no admin fee, no activity fee, no nothing. This is it. And that's correct, Lynn. I'm not misstating that, right?
Right. Nope. It'll just be tuition.
Full tuition for the 2 months is $2,904. Everything else is just represented as a fraction of that. So as you can see, 2 classes for 1 month or 1 class for 2 months are the same price. And that kind of explains what's going on here. So I don't really think I need to talk any more about this, other than to say, if there is nothing else on top of any of this. This is the full cost. And normally we would say, oh, but they've got to get, but students have to get insurance, but we don't have to worry about that, because students who will be taking these courses will either be in their home country, or they're already here and they already have their insurance. So here are some of the advantages we think this will bring to students who sign up for this. You'll be able to keep practicing your academic English skills, and I want to emphasize that we do specialize in academic English, which means that we have instructors whose main experience is helping students get ready for college, and that's really what we're all about. This is obviously a useful thing for students who are at the high school level as well, with the intention of going to college. And we feel like any students who are at that level that want to get a glimpse into what the college level English courses look like could do well by working with us, because we really do specialize in that. And we also, some of the coursework from this summer will help you get ahead in your English requirements at UWM in various ways. First of all, every student that comes to UWM, international, domestic, or otherwise, has a sequence of courses they need to go through in order to fulfill the general ed English requirement. While none of the courses that we're offering will one-to-one fulfill those requirements, it will give a lot of exposure to the kinds of things that go on in those courses so that when students come and they actually decide to take the placement test to get into their English class, they'll have a good amount of experience in the kind of academic English that will allow them to place higher. And we would even be willing, once the restrictions on the pandemic are lifted, to allow any students that take our courses and are locally available to come in and take our placement test to see just how well they're doing in terms of our English language sequence, so that they can see where they would fall in that sequence if they decided to come to UWM. So I want to open it up now for any questions. I'm assuming that those will probably come from Eric at this point. And I also want to say that anyone who does have questions can, of course, contact us at this email address or through our Facebook page. So Eric, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a few questions that I think our families might be interested in knowing. First question is, you talked about the prices and like one class, and I'm wondering how many hours of instruction there are per class that students should be prepared for, and then how many hours outside of class they would be expected to be working on their coursework to meet the course objectives.
Okay, Amy, do you want to talk about that?
So the online versions of these courses should mirror pretty closely what the face-to-face classes would offer. So normally we're 4 days a week, 75 minutes each for each of these classes. So that's equivalent to 6 credits. So that's approximately, it would stay about the same online. So they're getting a lot of instruction and a lot of time working either with the teacher individually in the class and even with other students. And then approximately, it does depend on the class and the level, but at least a couple hours, outside of that, regarding just homework and maybe some extra work that they'll be required to do on their own. But what's nice too as well for online platforms is that they can access this class. The teachers will record the sessions. So if they happen to miss a class or they can't meet at that right exact time the teacher is on live, they always can look at the recording. And what's nice about that is they can listen to it over and over again and really make sure they're understanding or use it for practicing listening. And then, of course, email their teacher or set up a time to do a virtual meeting. And so a lot of teachers have been working on that level as well. They're also open to they'll be a UWM student, so they'll be able to use the whole Microsoft platform. So they themselves can set up their own meetings with other students. They don't need the teacher online to have a virtual meeting. So if student groups want to form, they can work together on working on homework or other tasks that the teacher assigns, and even other general practice too.
And then how much outside of class would that be, do you think, that they would need to prepare for the in-class time?
It's probably a couple hours per class. So it's not going to double, but there's probably, 1 hour, maybe at a minimum in homework. So it depends. And I'm sure there'll be some weeks that it won't be very much at all, maybe a quick 20-minute task. Mm-hmm. So I think it'll definitely waver.
And it should depend on skill as well, right? So yeah. If they're doing speaking and listening, it's probably not going to be as much out of class work as if they're doing writing or reading.
Maybe more listening with that. A B-level writer and up may have, to type up 3 paragraphs, and that might take a longer amount of time, to do it versus a shorter piece.
Other questions?
Great. So just to summarize that, then students for one class, they would expect 1 month equals 4 weeks. Is that correct? So that's the time period, and every week will consist of what is the equivalent of 4 75-hour sessions.
75 minutes. Yep.
Oh, sorry, 75 minutes. Yes, and then the extra work on top of that. And Amy, you talked about the teachers will be delivering the content and it will be recorded. So it is synchronous. It's they can watch it live or they can watch it asynchronously on their own time. That's correct?
Yeah, that's exactly correct.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Next question is about the technology that students would need in order to be able to access the learning. I assume, of course, they're going to need a computer.
Yes.
Yep.
And will they need a UWM account? And will that be part of registering, is getting set up with a UWM account?
Yes. They'll receive.
So,
Yeah. Go ahead.
oh, sorry. So
No.
when they register, Lynn and I admit them into our online system called Pause, and that basically gets them enrolled in all of the university platforms. So they'll get a UWM email and an ePanther ID, and they'll be able to set up their passwords so they can access their Pause, they can access their email, they can access even Canvas, which is the online platform that we use for classrooms. And Canvas has a built-in platform where teachers can teach online. So that's where everything will be held. And the students will just have to be responsible for accessing that and understanding how to use it. But that's something we also can train students on. We actually created a Teams group on our Microsoft platform that students will have access to, where we put training videos for all of our students. So that's not going to be a problem at all. We'll be able to get students up and running. That's actually kind of part of my job. Like, I'm usually the go-to for students if they have problems. So it's something that I'm used to doing, and I can walk students through it. So.
And then ideally then a webcam of some kind on their computer, and ideally a headset with a microphone, just because that makes things a little less feedback. There's not an adjective for feedback. Feedback-y. So that would be well, and obviously a decent internet connection.
Right. Okay. Next question. I think students and families are interested, especially in preparing for the language test that they'll need for university admissions. Often I get questions about, is there a TOEFL class or IELTS class as part of the coursework? And so maybe Amy, can you talk about how the courses help students prepare for those types of tests?
Yeah, so these courses break down the skills. So the 2 are receptive and 2 productive skills, to give you some curriculum language, so that these are exactly what they need to improve, to then either go through those tests, but also to be successful at the university. So we do a lot of the listening and reading, because those skills have to be highly developed, and students need to be able to access those skills quickly. So that's why we do a lot of practice with that. And even with the online platform, teachers are still able to have students do a lot of speaking. Students will record themselves, send it to the teacher, as well as even writing tasks, which always can be digitally sent. And the teachers then walk through each piece of writing with the students. So students are getting a lot of feedback that way, for sure. And yeah, so we break down the courses into actual skills that then students need, whether it's taking a test or university work. So these are things that they build on. And that's why we have them broken into 2 levels, so A and B. So then you perfect A, and then maybe if you need 1 month just in the A level, then you can move on to the B level for the next month, and really see your skills get developed over the 8 weeks.
And Eric, also, if there's an expressed interest in some kind of IELTS prep course, like for doing actual prep for that test, we can make that available as well. If students express an interest in that type of class, we have online materials that we can make available to them, and we can give them instructor time to help them work on that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and Eric, I can also send you the link to where our curriculum is on our website if parents are interested in looking at the exact breakdown of what our student learning outcomes are, so they can actually read through what the students would be working on in those classes.
Great, thank you. One other question I have is, well, I think at least two more questions. I understand that it doesn't matter where the students are, whether they're in Milwaukee or whether they're in their home country. Have the students that you've been working with faced any issues in terms of accessing your content if they are in their home country? You know, I know one obstacle might be the time frame. You know, if they're in Asia, for example, and the teachers are teaching it, if it's early afternoon, well, then it would be 1 or 2 or 3 a.m. in their home country. So that's one concern. And the other concern is maybe in some countries where they content for some reason is restricted. Sometimes Chinese students have issues accessing content. Have you experienced that, or have you been able to find ways around that?
We haven't had any experience with the content issue where it just hasn't been accessible because of restrictions. We have had some issues with bandwidth. So what we're finding is that sometimes the difference in hours can actually help with that, because if a student is accessing from another country that's on a very, very different time frame, then sometimes that helps them get past bandwidth problems, because it's middle of the night here, for example, and vice versa. So that's why we're trying to make everything available both asynchronously and synchronously. And then another thing that we'll ask teachers to do when this summer is to sort of find ways to stagger the times that they do their live things, so that maybe one day students in Vietnam won't be able to make it because it's 2 a.m. for them, but then another day it will be more amenable to that time zone, and sort of mix it up a little bit like that for the live sessions. That's one of the things that we're going to try to arrange with the teachers, so that they can kind of shift around a little bit and make sure that everybody's getting some synchronous and everybody's getting some asynchronous.
Great. Last question that I can think of that the parents might ask is, when the students complete this course, is there a certificate that can be provided to show what they've achieved in the course?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It will have the level they've achieved. And go ahead, Lindsay.
Yeah, so I have we have a certificate of level completion. So I just basically fill it out with whatever level they completed in which courses. It'll be a little bit different than like a physical one just because we're virtual, but I can put our ELA stamp, like watermark on it to make it look more official. And then if restrictions ever lift, then I can go into the office and make the hard copy. But yeah, definitely it'll show which classes they took and then the level that they completed. Yeah.
Yep.
And also we have, we can do like an official transcript through our pause system. That way it shows exactly like the level that Lynn, does it show the level they started in or just what they completed?
The transcript, it'll show, yes, it'll show the level that they're enrolled in, and then if they pass or have to, or are asked to repeat it. I do have the certificates at my house, so if anyone is here in the United States, I can mail that to them if they want a physical copy of their certificate.
Otherwise, once the restrictions are lifted, we can mail to anywhere after that. Yeah. Any other questions?
Those were the questions that came up in my mind, or that I think parents would ask. So that was very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now.